Okay, today I'm going to walk from Meckelfeld to Harburg, which is about 3 miles, so it's about a 6-mile round trip through pretty much suburbia near and around Hamburg, Germany. So I'm going to be here for the next few weeks until this part of my trip ends. So let's go see what we can find. Like when I was flying in here, I noticed in Germany there's, when I was taking the train and the bus, that everyone's wearing masks on public transport, except in the airport, which is strange because I looked it up, and I guess in public transport only in Germany you have to wear a mask, which is, you know, the last remnants of COVID precautions anywhere, which is interesting because in the Baltic countries there's there's nothing anymore. I'll be curious to see when I arrive back in the US in about a month what it's like there, but different. Whoops, the sun's behind me. Something else I've noticed is like the friendliness of people here so far. It's only been a day, but when I nod to people, which is like what I like to do when I pass by them, they actually nod and smile back. Once again, stark difference from what I saw in the Baltic, you know, like Latvia, Estonia, where I would do that and they just kind of give me, you know, like a blank stare. So the culture is a little bit different in that regard. I don't know if you guys have noticed that either. If you have, you know, mention it in the comments. I'd like to hear what your observations are about that, about the outward friendliness of people. People doing beekeeping back there. But I found this cool war memorial. Like all these towns here in Germany obviously have, you know, World War I, World War II war monuments, memorials, I should say, for the people who, you know, fought in the war and died from these small towns and cities. Which is kind of interesting. I remember that back in 1989 when I came here as a student, seeing that, I was kind of like, oh my God, right? Like, but you know, they were people too, you know. People died from everywhere, regardless of what army you were in. And it was just kind of interesting mind trip, you know, because as an American growing up, it's like, oh my God, like the Germans, you know, evil, bad, and they wouldn't want, you would think they wouldn't want to remember any of the people who fought on that side, but, you know, the losing side. But, you know, they were families, like, and they have relatives here, and right or wrong, when people die, it's a bad thing. It's kind of like the Ukraine war right now too, you know, with the Russians. I have so many friends that are Russian, and you know, a lot of, and Ukrainian as well, and to see them kind of ostracizing each other because of what the leaders are doing, it's just like, oh my God, why? There's a lot to decompress there, but yeah, war's bad, period, right? I want to try to avoid that as much as possible, but unfortunately there's always going to be these people who are in control that cause chaos around the world, the evildoers. Anyway, let's continue on the walk. This is a really nice neighborhood, and modern, new, nice. But I saw a real estate office, and I was kind of looking at the prices, like what houses go for here, and actually it's not as bad as I would have thought. I would have thought it'd been, you know, like millions of dollars to get a house around here, but at least in Meckelfeld, you know, in the surrounding area, which is a good, you know, half an hour outside Hamburg, you know, you can get a place for like $500,000, which, you know, it's expensive, I guess, above average in the United States, but there's also places for like, you know, 200,000. I'm sure those are fixer-uppers, but they come with property as well, and you know, kind of like on the outskirts of the city, even outside the suburbs. So, you know, if you had a car and you were willing to commute, you know, you can get a place for a decent price around here. I was kind of surprised. Like I said, I would have thought everything would have been like super sky high expensive here in Germany, but I'm sure in different regions it's different, of course, just like everywhere else. But yeah, pretty nice. The weather here is perfect right now. Oh, but it does get cold in winter, I hear. Anyway, continue on. Kind of in the countryside now, in between Meckelfeld and Harburg. But I was thinking about, you know, Germany here, you know, when we look back to, well, not so recent history anymore, but World War II and what happened there with the extreme, you know, Nazism and stuff like that, and how that took place. And in my travels, you know, I've kind of noticed, you know, there's this pattern of differentiation. Anytime you differentiate us versus them in any way, even if it starts out in a righteous manner, you know, for example, the Ukraine war, you know, a lot of people would argue it's righteous that the Ukrainians are fighting back, right? Even in those circumstances, anytime you start to differentiate, even when it's the same homogeneous group theoretically, right? Like in Latvia, for example, or other countries, you know, people, once you can differentiate, that's the first initial step necessary for potential evil to take place. Oops, I gotta point the camera in a different direction. And I've been thinking about this a lot, you know, in my travels, especially here in Europe recently, but I've seen it everywhere. It could even be in groups that others from the outside may look at them and say, oh, they're the same group, like Nigeria, for example. And, you know, talking with my two colleagues there, Bola and Chakwudi, you know, they would talk about the really recent history, like in their lifetime, where one tribe would fight against another, basically genocide, killing each other. And they're literally almost the same people, you know, like, I mean, maybe technically you can find a genetic difference, but I doubt it. And religion in particular, you know, that really comes into play. And when you look at what happened here in Germany, what I've learned in this recent trip this summer is that I was kind of thinking growing up that it was Germany that started it, and it was like the German people, you know, kind of going in the Holocaust, going against the Jewish people for whatever reason, you know, greed, pure hatred or whatever. But it wasn't just the Germans. It was like the Latvians, the Lithuanians, the Estonians, the Russians, like everybody partook in that willingly, which is something that I've learned. And yeah, I'm mid-50s, and I'm just figuring this out. And you don't really learn about that in, you know, when you learn about the Holocaust in the United States. No, it wasn't just Germany. It was all of them. It was all of Europe, you know, going against the Jewish people. And I kind of, you know, what little I know, even in the United States, there was movements against the Jewish people there as well. But luckily, because, you know, democratic system perhaps, or, you know, different circumstances, it wasn't the perfect storm. So it didn't take place there, and we didn't kind of side with the Nazis during that time, luckily, right? But it doesn't take much. And even in today's world, like what we saw during COVID and pre-COVID with the, you know, different groups and different agendas for, even when it starts, like I said, a righteous thing for social justice, it could really quickly go awry. And it's not necessarily the majority of the people in that righteous movement, but it can just be a minority within a righteous movement. And I kind of saw that in Latvia with, you know, oh, let's deport, you know, the Latvians who side with the Russians and take their property. And, you know, like, it doesn't take much to start that ball rolling. And it all starts with differentiating between different groups of people, or genders, or whatever it may be. That's why, you know, I just believe, like, everyone's a person. Treat them equally. Treat them like you want to be treated, regardless of how they look or sexual orientation or whatever it may be. But don't differentiate either. Because once you start doing that, codifying that, right, like we see like on any job application, what's your race, you know? Once you start doing stuff like that, it's a slippery slope. I do understand why the thinking of why they did that, though, you know, with quotas and trying to help break certain groups into the job market and so on and so forth. But yeah, man, it's just dangerous. And people are very complex creatures, and you just never know how they're going to spin it. Anyway, continue the walk. Here's like a working farm. It's a beautiful brick building. Wow. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, they got chickens. But look at this barn. Look at the construction of that. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's old too. I haven't seen this yet though. You know, there's a big tractor, so you could tell it's a part of a working farm, right? But yeah, it's a pretty trick. Yeah, it's kind of dilapidated, but I haven't seen that kind of construction anywhere. And if you look, the joints are actual mortise and tendon, right? And they actually use pegs and not nails to put it together, which is interesting. It's nice. because yeah, this is kind of the suburbs now, but I'm sure this was definitely out in the country not very long ago. Point this out. I think that's like for chickens to get in or something, into the barn. I'm not really sure, but that's what it kind of looks like to me. I've never seen that feature anywhere as well. Interesting, right? Oh, nice, beautiful horse back here. Right. Okay, I'm gonna walk through the park. Lüneburger Straße. So this is kind of like the beginning of the walking mall that goes through Harburg. Oops, that's right in the sun, sorry. And it's kind of like a lot of ethnic restaurants down here, and coffee shops, and barber shops, and tons of food stuff, you know, cafes like crazy. A lot of gambling places too, which I've noticed, which is once again very strange and very not American, right? Like you would never find that in the US. But yeah, it's like some kind of big intersection here. It's like some kind of walking mall maybe goes underneath or something. Modern art. But from here, it's like a really long walking boulevard, like right through here. So let's go see what we can find, what kind of shops. I think today is Sunday. Yeah, it is. So a lot of things are closed. Once again, that's quite the opposite of like the US and stuff, where stores are open 7 days a week. There is no more Sundays, everyone gets off. But here it looks like in Germany it's still kind of the case, where I don't know if it's all throughout Germany, or maybe today's a special holiday, I don't know. But things are pretty much closed, which kind of sucks, but it makes for a nice walk. Not many crowds to contend with, so. That's very German. Yeah, East London. I don't think I've seen so many doner kebab shops in my life. Maybe it's just this one neighborhood, perhaps, I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna try and find the Rathaus, you know, the town hall. Let's see if it's a modern one or an old one. I doubt it's an old one. So much of the older buildings were destroyed in the war. But let's see if I can find it. See some classic architecture for the region. We might luck out. I guess it's this way. Found the Rathaus, or town hall. So, beautiful building. Classic architecture, right? For this region, anyway. Yeah, that'd be great if I can get here, if I was here at noon, so I can hear the bells, right? 'Cause like in Germany, they have the, you know, tradition of having all the clock towers, you know, have a melody and all kinds of cool stuff. But yeah, looks like it's the original. I mean, here's the plaque. 1892, looks like. Cool. Anyway, that'll be it for today's walk. I think I'm gonna go get me a shawarma, since there's so many options for shawarma around here. As I get older though, my stomach can't handle it as much, but I'm gonna go for it anyway. Gotta grab good shawarma while you got a chance. And I'm gonna head back to the States, where they don't really have that many options for that. Okay, well, until next time. There might be some more after this, but if I see anything cool, but for the most part, the video's over. I accomplished what I needed to do today. So until next time, catch you later. I just read the plaque. A little side note. This building was completely pummeled and rebuilt after World War II, minus a tower that was in there, but it's a neoclassical style architecture. So anyway, move on. Old cemetery for Harburg. And there's like ranging from 1700s to 1800s. Pretty old cemetery. There's a big park right here. It goes north-south through Harburg. Check it out. Wow, look at this lake. Looks like you can rent boats out there. There's all kinds, go ahead, all kinds of cafes and restaurants around. Big walking boulevards kind of in the shade. Nice place. It looks like a water polo court out there as well. So I guess the water gets warm enough that you can go swimming in it. But yeah, this is a really nice park. If I were to live in Harburg area, I would try to probably get a place near this park, only because, you know, you could do running here, obviously, all year round, probably. I'm sure there's other activities around here too. I just haven't found them yet. But I saw like basketball courts and all kinds of stuff, tennis courts. Yeah, it's a cool spot. Here's the lake here to my left. It's a huge area. I looked on it in Google Maps. It's like bigger than most, you know, small towns. And it's just all these little micro plots of land that is very common here in Germany that I know of, where this is like little cabins where they just go for the weekend, you know, hang out, do some gardening, maybe spend the weekend there. I don't know if they have bathrooms in them or not, if they're just like for day use. But, you know, that's where people come from the city to have a little plot of land, do some gardening. It's very much in the culture here. Very much kind of like what we see sometimes in the US, where they'll have these like little urban plots where the little neighborhoods will get like a field, and there'll be like 10 families that have like a little piece of land that they share, grow their garden. But yeah, it's very, very common. It's pretty cool. I like that about this culture. It's a nutria. I didn't know they had those here. I thought it was a beaver, but it's got a rat's tail. It's quite small though. The water looks kind of polluted too. I don't see people swimming in it, so it's too bad. My German a little bit with this older couple that were looking at the baby nutria with me. My German sucks, really bad. The problem I have is that I'm so embarrassed to even talk or speak in German because it's so bad. So then I revert back to English, and then almost everyone speaks English, so then I don't speak German. So then I don't even get to practice. So, and I know that's a lot of my friends in their foreign language experience as well. They say the same thing. They just get embarrassed, so they revert back to English, and it's a common language. So it makes it more difficult to learn. I just got to go for it, speak it. There's gonna be a ton of blackberries here, and I can hear a buzz, and I thought it was a freeway or something, but it's bees. Just a shit ton of bees all over the place. It sounded like far off traffic, but they're having a heyday out here. It's crazy. Lots of bees. That's good. Makes honey. Clay courts. Public clay courts. There's a whole bunch of them too. Yeah, this park is pretty cool. Nice. It's a state park, I think. No, city park, sorry. Stadt, city. So the city park of Harburg is really, really nice. Man, like I said, if I were to live here, I'd live somewhere around the edge of it so I can, you know, go running out here, tennis, biking, just to go for a walk. Tons of wildlife. It's beautiful. Well kept. No garbage. I will have to say though, walking along the city streets on the way here, maybe on the way back I suspect, there's a lot more garbage. Unlike Estonia or Latvia or Finland. A little more dirty, you know. But then again, it's a bigger city. Germany's a bigger country. You know, different stratations of income and people caring about the area they live in. So, okay, this is it definitely, I think, for today. I don't think I'm going to film anymore. So, I'll catch you later. Until next time. I'm in an area, a lot of horses. I had to use my German again. They spoke zero English. I had to figure out, does this path go through? And I just remembered just enough keywords to get an answer that I needed. That's a cool house. Beautiful.